Ready? With what? Yeah. Okay, welcome to the board meeting for the Roseville Joint Union High School District on Thursday, January 13th, 2022. We'll call this meeting to order at 6:32 p.m. And Barbara, roll call, please.
Constant is absent this evening. Heidi Hall, Julie Hirota, Scott Huber, and Andrew Tagg is also absent this evening.
We will note the presence of a quorum, and we do have two board members who are absent for excused absence reasons. We'll go with the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please stand and join me in the pledge? That is one of the reasons why I love having the students here, is because they can do the pledge. Yeah, they do a much better job. Yes, that is an accurate statement. That is no, you're speaking for both of us. That's an accurate statement. Okay, let's for meeting protocols, we have the same meeting protocols as every meeting. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Unless we have more than 10 speakers on one item, then it'll be reduced to 90 seconds. We also take any public comment by email at the address in the published agenda. 2.3, communications.
No communications this evening.
And I'll note we do not have a student board representative tonight, so we'll skip over the student board representative report. 2.5, committee reports. Anybody want to comment on the committee meetings they had? Seeing none, they must have been fabulous. Public comment. And this is public comment on non-agenda items, and we do have one. Nicole Young. Did you think, Nicole, that you'd be here 3 minutes after the meeting started with your public comment already?
I did not. This is packed house. I just wanted to extend my gratitude to the board for your willingness to work with us parents and for your willingness to stand up for our students. And I've been to a lot of board meetings and I've seen a lot of boards working, and you guys are by far one of the top boards that we have seen in action. And I just want to extend my gratitude. My son is a senior this year, and he really only had 1 year of one full complete year of normal school. And this year has been a very close second. And I just want to extend my gratitude to the board for helping make that possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And on behalf of your son, I'll shout out Go Creek. Karen.
Good evening. Oh, I'm taller than you, especially with my boots on. Good evening. My name is Karen Combest, and I have a daughter who's a junior in her second semester. She's in the home stretch, she feels like, even though she's got a whole nother year. She's super happy to be back in person on campus with new teachers and new friends in class, and things are going great. And I want to, as well, extend my thank you to the board, to the staff, to the administration for doing everything in your power to keep our kids in person. I mean, again, I think you've always led with our students in mind as a priority for their academic success as well as their mental health and all of that. And I would just ask that you continue to do that, specifically in regards to keeping those schools open. And if you need parents to come, I don't know, take out trash or monitor the halls, let us know. As you know, we've got connections. And I don't think any of us are credentialed, but, you know, I don't know, I can teach something. Anyway, I will say that it's been a little bit of a concern with all the press about schools closing. I was just watching the news on before here, and that does concern me a little bit. I would say if you could just continue to focus on keeping everything as close to normal as possible. With that in mind, I would ask that you consider not handing out those N95s that you've been asked to hand out to our students. Maybe do what you did with the iHealth antigen tests from China. If you could take these masks from China and maybe just keep them in the office, and if a kid wants one, have them come get one, but don't force them to take them, because I know it's going to contribute to landfill and probably climate change concerns, because my kid's putting it in the garbage can, because I know you would never, ever require them to wear them in class because they're not safe. There's information from the Sacramento County Public Health Department that says they're not safe. I have that document if you'd like to see it. And so I just ask that you keep that in mind as you proceed. And then with regards to all the funding related to COVID protocols, I guess, again, it's kind of shocking to me that, for $5.8 million, you've kind of sold our children's smiles. So I would ask that transparency is really important, and figuring out maybe if you don't need that money, give it back. I'd like to be able to say that between now and September 2023, when that commitment expires, that we don't have to sell our children's smiles in order to get that money. So, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. Okay, we have the consent agenda, and there was a request to pull one of the items, 3.10. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 3.10? Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, so moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Oh, here, sorry, yes. I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Julie Hirota and Scott Huber.
Yes. Okay, item 3.10.
Okay, I had a few questions outside of the, from the public about item 3.10, and I did my best to explain to them on an individual level what I thought, not what I know. And so if Dr. Moore, if you could, there's a few questions I have about it. One is if you could help us understand what the objective of the UC Davis History Project, and then what the expected, help us understand what the expected outcomes are. And then the next question would be, how we got to this point, and then why UC Davis was selected.
Certainly, I'd be happy to. So this is following the next steps in the curriculum audit that we've been conducting, and each subject and course is in a different spot in that audit, but one of our social science teams is ready to go to the next step, which would include reviewing their curriculum, considering if there is a need for any updates. And as we were looking at planning time and setting aside team time for them to do so, several of them came and requested expert support. They were not feeling as confident as they might be in, are we current? Are there better ways? What are the options? What is everybody else doing? Not that we were going to change necessarily, but they wanted to be informed and feel a little bit more confident in what we're doing and how we're serving our students. So the objectives are to review our curriculum, determine if there are any changes that we think is appropriate in our district, and then that would move forward through the typical and formal full approval process in our own district. And so this is a teacher-led process, but the support is the request of our teachers to have some expert consultants on the side. And so kind of the how did we get here, that's in there, and why UC Davis. As we looked at the need and the request from the teachers, I surveyed a variety of resources that were available to us, including those that our teachers typically go to. And so over the past quite a few years, our social science teachers have built a relationship with UC Davis History Project, gone to a variety of trainings. So they're credible. They're not the only ones we looked at, but because there was some recommendation there, I then interviewed the team because I wanted to make sure of what the approach would be, and ultimately was comfortable because I shared with them, here's what we need. We don't need anyone coming and telling us what to do. We don't want to adopt anyone else's curriculum. We literally want experts, guides on the side to help us see what are some other resources that we might consider to take or leave. And I liked the approach and felt comfortable with the team that would be supporting us, as did our teachers. So that's a little bit about how and why we made this selection and this proposal.
What I described and what I thought, one more thing was this will help create kind of a baseline and alignment across the district in terms of an approach. Am I making that up?
No, you're not. That's absolutely, when you think of like the goals and objectives of the actual whole curriculum audit, that's exactly where that is. So yes, when we look at our curriculum audit as a district, what are our district courses? And then as teachers, are we coming together and agreeing, yes, this is what we're teaching, this is the approach, this is the content. So yes, that's what our teachers are coming together to have that conversation, and these will simply be resources and consultants to help us with that.
Okay. And then I have a recommendation, and probably it's already in the plan. As I've observed, we have some polarizing perspectives around the curriculum. And my request is that through this process and through the audit process, through the professional development process, and then through the stages of the new curriculum proposal, that the district is intentional, and we're kind of aligning across the district and our community, and in order to create a more neutral and objective approach towards the coursework. Is that clear enough?
I believe so, and that's something, I like that charge, because that's something that we can bring to our SILT, who's ultimately helping to lead the whole thing, is what are we doing? And we're approving, we're inquiring, we're looking into it. Yeah. And I think that would be really nice to add in as we're framing that first meeting.
Yeah, and so I'll give you input as I receive it from the community in terms of where there may be some polarization.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is all I have for questions.
No, sorry. She answered my questions on the phone today, Dr. Moore, and I spoke earlier today and was able to address some similar issues and some different questions I had about it. So I don't have any other questions tonight.
Okay.
We're just around the cost. It made me realize I'm in the wrong line of work. So I was just trying to understand if that's typical, if that's normal, and a little bit more understanding around that piece of it. And then I was just trying to figure out then what are the steps towards, is this implementing curriculum? No, it's more of research, or I kind of think of it as like a consultation on how do we develop the curriculum, what are some options, what might it look like, but it's not actually adopting the curriculum. Is that accurate? Okay, and that I am in the wrong line of work. We determined that as well. Yeah.
If I could go one step further, this isn't even about establishing curriculum. This is only about analyzing what our current curriculum is, yes? Okay. Okay. Any other questions, board members? Anybody like to make a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do. Any member of the public wish to comment on this item? We have, yes, we did. We had, what did I do with your paper, Karen? There it is. Karen.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Good evening, Karen Combest, and I sent a lengthy email, which I really do appreciate Mr. Becker responding very thoughtfully and thoroughly in most cases. My concerns on this one, I got a general response. I didn't get a specifics. I asked some very detailed, very specific questions, and those very detailed, very specific questions were not answered. So, I guess I've put together my own conclusions. So let me see if I can come to some understanding. It sounds like this is for ethnic studies, right? I mean, this is for reviewing the ethnic studies curriculum that we've been talking about for over a year. Is that true? Or is it all of the history classes like AP, US history, military history, help me, AP, European history? Is it all of those, or is it just ethnic studies?
The courses, ethnic studies is one of them, and yes, they have requested this support, but every one of the courses that you've mentioned is going through the same review.
So with that in mind, then every course in the social sciences curriculum will be evaluated or influenced by the history project at UC Davis, which, if you've read their About Us page, talks about how race is central. Race, R-A-C-E, is central to understanding so many parts of our world, that they want to include the horrors and oppression as well as the triumphs and resistance. And then if you drill down on the professional development, you see anti-racism training, you see other things related to ethnic studies. And so I was just trying to really understand how that organization then, which focuses on basically race as a central and key focus of curriculum, how that then will then translate into every single social science class in the Roseville Joint Union High School District, which I understand the ethnic studies because that's part of, that. But I just was kind of curious and shocked that that would be the vendor chosen in order to basically provide an assessment or guidance with teachers in social science. So those are some of my main concerns, and I just felt very we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about critical race theory lately, but it seemed like this was an organization that put that front and foremost, as well as race essentialism, which is what they say they do. So those are my concerns. Thanks.
Okay, board members, what's your pleasure?
Just make a comment, because I think one of the things that I experienced in going in this last week about this is that, and rightfully so, the first thing you do is you look at, well, who's the sponsor? And it's a history project at UC Davis. You go visit the site, and then you make a lot of assumptions based on your position. And so I had to really remove that with what this says we're seeking. And once I was able to do that, what we're seeking in this professional learning to support social science teachers, I was convinced that this professional learning piece is necessary. So, and I think it's convenient to kind of look at the sponsor and then make assumptions. And so I had to try to not do that. And based on whatever content's on their website. So, based on the conversation that I had with Dr. Moore and that what she shared this evening, I think this is the next step in the instructional practices, right? Our review of practices and alignment on best practices.
Okay. Comments?
I think it raises our awareness. I think, all of the things that Ms. Combest pointed out and things that we've read about it will just help us be more aware as board members as we are moving forward, just paying attention and being diligent to see, what are they coming up with, what are they finding, and being part of the process, as you said, as it goes in through curriculum review, so that we're not completely blindsided, that we're just being able to stay on top of what's happening.
Question.
Yeah.
Do we know if this department is well versed in California Ed Code and requirements, standard requirements? And they kind of come from that perspective of meeting standardization, or we're not really that far into the weeds with this?
We're just starting with the team, but I will say in general, yes, our teachers are, and yes, that's where our curriculum development starts. So that is the plan. The plan isn't to come in with a philosophy. Barbara, I'm sorry, I can't see. But our plan isn't to come with a philosophy or an approach. The plan is to focus on the standards and how do we support. Now, in this case, there aren't standards.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
so we have a course, and we're going to review our course and see
Okay.
what needs to be revised. But when there are state-adopted standards, that's the foundation of where we start any of our curriculum work.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody? No. Well, actually, yeah. No. I'll wait. I'll wait until if one of us is going to make a motion. Does someone want to make a motion on this to pass this item? Okay. Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I do want to make a comment about the motion. I think I am cautiously optimistic that this will be of benefit. I think we have given pretty clear instruction to staff that if this goes in a direction that is something that this board would not support, this is a contract that is you only pay for the services you use. If you don't use the services, you don't pay for them. So if this goes in a direction that this board will not support, then I want staff to be able to say, wait a minute, let's pump the brakes and take it back to the board for a further discussion. I certainly don't want any, again, I believe what I have been told. I have no reason to not believe what I've been told, that this is about analyzing what we have. We need to have a different discussion about establishing curriculum for the ethnic studies class going forward, and how do we meet the guidelines of the state. That will be a different discussion, and I would hope that we would be able to have the discussion open and public with the board before we start putting curriculum together, so that we can sort of give some benchmarks to those that are establishing the curriculum along the lines of, this is the playing field, stay within the playing field, and you're free to go within the playing field, but these are the sort of guideposts, right? So I would just, no, I think the motion is, I don't think this is contrary to the motion or even adding to it. I'm just saying staff should understand, as part of that, this is a contract for services, that if you use an hour, you pay for an hour. If you use 20 hours, you pay for 20 hours. If staff realizes it gets to a point where they believe this is going to go in a place where the board doesn't agree, then say, let's pause this, come back to the board and talk about it. Is that fair enough? Okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries 3-0 with 2 absent. Okay, RSEA report. We received word that the RSEA folks have back to school night, so they will not have a report tonight. Item 4.2, draft fiscal year 2022-23 budget purposes, constraints, and guidelines.
as Mr. Landon is not with us this evening. So purpose of this is to provide an opportunity to present the draft budget purposes, constraints, and guidelines for the development of the 22-23 budget. For those who've been around, you know this is an annual process, and this is kind of the first go-around to generate any questions or feedback for Mr. Landon and his team, which they would then bring back for approval. It's either going to be the next meeting or the first one in February, depending on how things go. So with this, there are some changes this year he wanted to make note of. You can see there in the green are some adjustments. The first one he wanted me to highlight is something they haven't done before, but moving forward with the budget is just putting in a 2% salary increase that for all employee groups so that it's budgeted going forward. This is something that also came through working with our bargaining groups that they want to see in the budget planning going forward, so that they know that when they see the budget and they don't see any type of increase to salary, that they want to see that in there so that it's being planned for and not something thrown in after the fact. The other ones are just transfers from the general fund to deferred maintenance, transportation, the all-weather tracks, and co-curricular fund. With the various amounts of money that have come in this past year, we were able to move some money from the general fund into some of these accounts this year in some substantial amounts, and then some of these will take a few years off, and then money will be reallocated to those. And then the last one of note is the district is now establishing a process for pre-funding the pension trust, which is PARS, and that was supposed to come to this meeting, PARS by itself, but Joe will be bringing that at the next meeting to kind of go in more detail about PARS. So per these guidelines, RSCA and CSCA have the same packet, same information, seeking their feedback as well. He hasn't received any yet, but essentially, Joe just wanted to know if you had any questions or anything to provide to him. I know he's met with Scott a little bit when we reviewed the agenda. And so he said you could always give him a call, email him, or he's listening right now at home, so you can ask him via live streaming as well. He said he could text in if needed.
Any comments, additions, thoughts, feelings, anything?
I'm curious how other districts budget for salary increases. I know Joe's not here, sorry. Should have asked that.
Joe, if you're at home, there's your question. How do other districts
Yeah,
budget
no,
in salary?
I guess I'm curious about that, and
I believe it's the first time we're doing it. Is that correct, Scott?
Yeah, we have traditionally always had it at 0 because you never know what the budget is going to look like, right? When the state, when we set our budget, a lot of times we just don't know what is going to be coming down the pipeline. And even then, sometimes it changes. They have, mid-year updates and that. So I think I don't know how other schools do it. We have always had 0. I did, to just make a comment off of what Superintendent Becker said, I did make sure that the language was in there, that it was pretty clear in, I guess, subparagraph 10, where it says, yet there is not a guarantee that this salary increase will be available. I wanted to make sure that they were aware, look, we can budget all we want, but if the money isn't there for it, it isn't there for it.
So I got the answer is districts all do it different. Most budget 0.
Okay?
yeah, I believe in the concept. And I've been fortunate to be on this board where we haven't had to make significant budget cuts. And it concerns me with how that piece would play out in the case where we would be in a shortfall.
Yeah. This does, I will tell you, just to me, it feels like this does sort of set the expectation. Now, there is the language that's there, but the other component, and I'm going to rant for just a minute, if you'll let me, but the, we used to have a higher reserve for fiscal uncertainty. And the state now has an absolute cap. You cannot have more than a 10% reserve total of all your reserves. And I think that's fundamentally stupid, if I can use that word, because in 2000, well, the reason why is we had a reserve, if I remember correctly, and maybe Joe can text John here about it if he remembers, but in 2006, we had a reserve of about 15%, 16%, somewhere in that range. And every year we would get from the bargaining units, that's too much reserve, you're withholding money inappropriately. And when 2007 hit, this district was the only one in the region that didn't actually lay off a teacher. Now, we issued some pink slips, we were able to pull them back. So, but we didn't actually lay off a single teacher. And I think we were the only one in this region that didn't. And I remember vividly where the then president of the union, Brandon Delorto, came up and said, hey, remember how, you guys had that reserve? I want you to know we really appreciate that because we didn't have to lay anybody off. And it was, I said, I want to write this in my calendar so I can remind you of that in future years when we get these arguments. But so I think it is unwise to have a simple 10%, reserve. Having said that, there are some things, I've been doing some research, and there are some things we can do to allocate funds for a particular purpose, even if they're not spent, if they are in a particular fund reserved for a particular purpose. So maybe we can do some of that. And I know that the paragraph 37, the PARS section 115 pre-funding is going to be a part of that. It'll be a component of that. Because what you can do if in certain fiscal difficult times, you can use that to pay the current obligations, and reduce your current outflow of cash. Anyway, I think we ought to be looking at all options for making our reserve as high as we can realistically and quite frankly, practically make it. Because the money is intended to be spent on schools and education and teaching our kids. But we've got fiscal uncertain times that are surely ahead.
Yeah, Joe just confirmed it was between 15 and 20% for many years.
Yeah, look at
And
that.
then he even said to do this is a new process, and he goes with 2%. It's a very conservative approach. So
Does it make sense to have salary carve-outs in the budgeting, in a budget document?
What do you mean?
Well, because I feel like this is more that, and I barely know how to say this, but it seems like it's a negotiating piece, not a budget piece. And this is a budget, not a negotiating document.
yeah, I think that's where it was down at the bottom there when it said this is not meant to preclude good faith bargaining with our employee groups, because it can go up or down pretty. I think this was just a place to show that we are taking into account the potential of any increases in salary. Brad, you want to add anything to that?
I think you nailed it. Basically, this is a placeholder. Every year, we have always anticipated going into good faith bargaining with the intent of what can we do to pay, attract, retain our teachers and our other staff. And the criticism that we've received sometimes is it doesn't appear that we're thinking of them before we make other decisions. This is an opportunity for us to show that, no, we do budget for potential salary increases, that this does not preclude good faith bargaining, meaning that in lean years, 2% may not be possible, and in other years in which potentially a COLA is higher, like next year, 5.33, 2% might be conservative. And it doesn't stop us from having that good faith bargaining. It doesn't pigeonhole us. It doesn't hold us to that number. That number could go up and down. It could be zero if that's what we can afford. But we're going to sit at the table, good faith bargaining, but we want to make sure that our employees know that we are thinking about them and that we're anticipating this if we can. And they've always been good with us, like when we had those lean years in 2007, they were first to come and sit down with us and talk about, okay, let's increase class size, let's do these things. And we tried to cut as far away as we could from the classroom and not have to lay anybody off and retain our great programs. And it's because they worked with us side by side, and it's because of relationships that we have. I think this is just an opportunity to try it, put it on there. Remember, this gets updated every year. If this ends up not being something that is a good idea, it can always be changed in future years. But I think this is our attempt to show our partners that we are thinking about them, at the same time being proactive in terms of setting our budgets and showing what we can do. But once again, it does not say that we are going to give them a 2%. It could go higher, it could go lower, depending on what our financial circumstances are when we sit down at the table.
I will, if I can, I will just say, I deal with bargaining quite a bit in my day job, and a lot of people wonder why would I do this at nighttime as well, but I have never seen an agency that has bargaining like we have bargaining, and I mean that in a positive way. We don't have consultants, we don't have headhunters, we don't have labor reps and everybody. It's just district folks and on both sides of the table. And the first meeting that they do is they open up the books and say, ask us any questions you want about where the money is. And so, because of how well we have had negotiating in the past, because we have not had these entrenched, bang your hands on the table, awful negotiating, it leads me to think that this isn't going to be a problem. Now, having said that, I would think that if this ever were a problem, that's the first thing that comes out. And then we go back to, okay, look, if it ever gets thrown in our face, but you've budgeted 2%, you have to give us at least 2%, then, now does this needs to be approved? It does not, it's just direction.
It'll come back. It's going to come back. So Joe's taken all this information. And again, feel free to contact him,
Yeah.
or I'll have him just do a whip around with all of you
Okay.
to find out any more questions, discussion, and he'll be bringing it back either the 27th or the 10th of February.
Perfect. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Yeah.
Language that may serve the purpose that we're trying to achieve, but not specify a number. I think what I'm having problems with is having a number. Just having that number. And so when I was looking on page 3 of the guide, there's guideline statements that set specific parameters. I'm wondering if we could include, in lieu of a number, saying that, our guidelines are we commit to attract and retain the best qualified staff, and we aim to reflect that in our budgeting process each year. I'm just suggesting, like, there's guidelines that start on page 3 of 6.
Mm-hmm.
So
I got it. I
Uh,
see it at
well,
the bottom.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, paragraph 10. Oh, yeah, so there's that, right. So maybe what if, because I think it's important to emphasize that we are committed to budgeting to commit and to attract and retain best qualified staff. But the concern I have is around a number, a percentage.
Okay.
But I think it's certainly a guideline at a minimum, right? Our guideline, and we have said this in theory, that we want to be in the top whatever. in terms of kind of our salary tables.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think though with this, because that number will get plugged in when he presents his upcoming budget. He's got to plug in a number when he presents the budget, when he does his budget proposal for us. So we'll have to have a number in there.
Right, so he always presents a number, but I'm saying this is a budgeting document with guidelines. The number belongs in the actual budget, but does it belong in the guidelines, is my question. A number.
So it may, so let me see if I can, let me put it in different words what you're saying. If you were to change the language of paragraph 10 to take out that percentage and to say we're, you know, massage it to say we want to honor our teachers, you know, and we'll reflect that in the budget. But then when the budget is proposed, he can, assuming that there's, that you know, that there's the ability to do that, he can utilize 2% in the budget that he presents as, here's what we're thinking going forward. Is that,
I feel like being tied to a number is,
Well, I'll take that feedback for Joe. He's here, and
Okay.
we'll let Joe work on that feedback.
let him massage that
and
language?
check in back with you guys and,
Okay.
and see where it goes. And again, if there's something technical I'm not aware of, it could be an easy thing.
Okay.
Like I said, you know, sometimes there's technical stuff with this, but
Does that work for you?
I think that makes sense to everybody.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Any public comment on this item? Nope. Okay. Item 4.3, annual LCAP metrics presentation.
Been working out.
An update on some of the key metrics from our local control accountability plan that's approved in June. Now, this past June, the plan that was approved as a 3-year plan, it's the first year of that. So we'll see just some baseline information, just some updates, and you'll get a teaser of what we'll be looking at for next year to see how did we do this year based on the goals that we set. Sir?
Your normal presentation, how long are you thinking?
20 minutes?
Okay, can I, with the request of the board, would it be okay to move the public hearing up? Because we've got a consultant that's got a clock ticking that we're paying by the hour. So would that be okay if we
Certainly.
maybe do the public hearing on the maps and then come back to this right after? Would that be okay? Okay. I'm sorry, April, I'm sorry. I just,
Nope,
when I heard this is gonna be a little bit longer, I thought, oh, man. Okay, we're going to go out of order. We're going to hold 4.3, and we'll come back to that. Item 5.1, public hearing, 1 of 2, regarding draft trustee voting areas maps. Doug.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good to see you again. It's been a while. I'm here to start our third hearing on drawing districts here in the Roseville Joint Union High School District. And we've had 2 hearings already. Let me get to the schedule. We've had 2 hearings already, and now we're at our first public hearing where we're going to actually see some draft maps. The public has been involved. They've actually submitted some maps that we'll be looking at this evening, and I've also drafted a few that you can take a look at. The goal today, there's only 3 of you here. The goal today is to focus on a couple of these maps and to give me direction as to what you want changed in the maps or what other concepts you want to see in the maps that I can bring back to the next meeting, which is February 10th. And at that meeting, it's it should be the intent to actually decide on a final map, which you will post online and approve before March 1st, at one of your meetings before March 1st. So that's the schedule here. This map is your attendance areas. I've got it in this presentation. I believe you also have it in front of you. So we can look at some of these maps and compare attendance areas as we look to see if the maps conform to what our goals are, which were stated at the last meeting, which was that several districts should touch, several attendance areas. The attendance area should have more than one district in them, so that a trustee is not focused on one area of the district, but is perhaps focused on at least two and maybe more attendance areas in the district. So we'll refer back to this map as we see the other maps. This is the map submitted by Ms. Franz. And let me get it in front of me so we can discuss it. This is her map number 1. And as we go through these maps, you'll see some amazing similarities. A lot of folks come to the same conclusions about how to do this. The first thing I looked at when I looked at a map that perhaps has more than one trustee in one attendance area is split Granite Bay right in half, right down Douglas Boulevard. And that's what this map pretty closely does. So that attendance area is split, and then it goes north to get my attendance area app through the Roseville High School attendance area and ends up right at the edge of West Park High, one of your schools? Yeah, so so that has basically 2 attendance areas in it. And that's district number 4. District number 5 has Oakmont and
Granite Bay.
Granite Bay. Thank you very much. So then you look at the Antelope one, and that's the other one that you want to look at. If you split Antelope down the middle, you're going to immediately put two trustees in that attendance area. So that's where this map starts, and I think when you see my map, you'll see the exact same district drawn as this one. So Friends 1 is looking at something. It looks like something that the board was looking at as far as goals the last time we met. Friends 2 is a little different and doesn't go as far on that because Oakmont's going to be in one district here, and the same with Antelope.
That's this one. That's Friends too.
Friends 2. Mr. Chairman, do you want me to go through these, or do you want to comment as we go along?
What would be most beneficial for you?
I think as we go along, because
Okay.
if somebody says I don't like this, then we can immediately not spend as much time on it. But if it's something that is intriguing
Okay.
and looks good to you all, I think we should probably express that.
Okay.
Including the ones that are coming up here. And one thing I do want to say to you all is that my map is no better than any other map. I'm from the region. I don't live in your district. I've drawn maps for my whole life, but it doesn't mean that I'm a better map drawer than somebody who actually is here and understands what's going on. So I'm not judging my maps or any other's maps based on my own perceptions.
So board members, any thoughts on this Friends 2 map?
Or we can go back to 1 if you want to look at that.
While they're maybe thinking or something, I'll tell you this one. I have a couple of concerns on this one. Antelope High School only has 1 trustee that represents them. Granite Bay, same scenario. And so I want to pinpoint one thing. We had, I think, inartfully declared each board member should have at least 2 schools.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reverse is also the same. Each school should have at least 2 board members.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got to have an outlet of elected officials to talk to, and you may get one who disagrees with you, doesn't want to hear you, doesn't, is in it for the whopping, $20 per meeting, and they just they're not diligent. And so I think every board member should have at least 2 schools, And every school should have at least 2 board members. Now, that's just my own opinion, but the map, the Franz one, I think did that pretty well. This one doesn't do that because you've got, see, that one you've got Antelope has two, Granite Bay has 2. Every school, it looks like, has at least, maybe not Wood Creek, I'm not sure about up in number 1. We'll have to see on that one, but you get the point. I think it's important, I think, for every board member to have at least 2 schools in their jurisdiction, and I think every school should have at least 2 board members.
And that's what you said last time. And I think any 9th grader who looks at this map and says, okay, how do I do that? The first thing you do is split Granite Bay, and the second thing you do is split Antelope.
Yep.
And the best way to do that is right down the middle, because conveniently for us, there's a beautiful long street,
Wide road.
street that you can that you can use as your guide,
Yeah.
and do that. So I agree that Franz 1 is better than Franz 2.
Okay. Any other comments on Franz 1 or 2? That's Franz 2. This is Franz 1. I'm sorry, no, backwards. This is 1, 2. 1 is better than 2.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Should eliminate
And you can
one.
tell me when you're ready for the next one. If you're done
let's not
done
eliminate
with
yet.
comments about this.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, okay.
And I will make clear that we'll have comments from the public later.
Yep.
This is a map submitted by Ms. Combest. Let me get it in front of me. Ms. Combest did not submit a set of population figures for this map, but it's similar in concept to Franz 2, in that she's splitting up the Granite Bay area right off and the Antelope area as well. It looks to me, having gone through some of this drawing of this district, in that District 4 at the top is going to be a little underpopulated. They're going to have to add more to that district, because let me see if I can tell, it's obviously District 3 in the middle is going to be overpopulated.
Yeah.
So this map will need a little adjusting, but 2 is almost exactly the same as I drew it, when you'll see my map in a minute. And 1 is also very similar to a district that I came up with. If you start at the corner, upper left corner, your northwest corner of your district, number one there is the first district you kind of come up with. And let me see who that divides. Does that divide any attendance areas? Yes, it does. It has most of West Park in it, and a portion of Roseville
And Wood Creek.
and Wood Creek.
And there's a little section of Oakmont up in the, there's a little, we did not follow the what is it, contiguous rule. We have a little Oakmont section up
Oh,
in the
that's right.
northwest quadrant. So
I had forgotten about that. Let's see, where is that? Doesn't show on my map.
yeah, when we established the districts, it was now in fairness, at the time we did that, that was all 100% industrial land, and so it wasn't at the time going to be developed.
Blue one.
Yep, that little blue section at the time was industrial. It is no longer all industrial, and it's slated for some development. So,
Shall I move on?
yes. Yes.
Trustee Constant put together a few maps for our consideration. We'll look at number 3 first. This one has all of Granite Bay in one district on the right. He numbered it number 5. His total deviation for his plan is about 5.7%, which is well within legal parameters. Then the Oak,
John, did you get any comments from Pete? Did you get any comments from Pete?
then Roseville High School is divided in two.
Yep.
As is, what's the blue? As is West Park.
He has some notes, I think, in the statistics. His goal, each map had a different goal, if I remember correctly. And I think with this one, his goal
Geographic
was
compactness.
focusing on geographic compactness, which is a lower, it's a lower focus than some of the others.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Right. Yep. Stay on this one or move on? We can move on.
Here's his number 4 map. Which with a much higher total deviation. That's, I think, because number 2 is going to be underpopulated. Let's have a look at his chart. Yeah, 2 is underpopulated, and 4 is way overpopulated.
Yeah.
And so that's why you come up with such a high total deviation. Deviation is determined, just for your information, by adding your highest negative underpopulated district and your highest overpopulated district. So the total of those two is you add the percentages together, and that's your total deviation.
It's got to be 10% or less.
It has to be under 10% in order for a court to consider you constitutional when you walk in the door.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 5. Get that in my hands.
So in this one, you've got Antelope in number 3 with just one trustee area. It looks like all the others do have multiple trustees, although I'm not sure about Roseville does.
Mm-hmm.
Oakmont, oh yeah, Oakmont, this one does have a little bit of Oakmont in there. Yeah, it does. Yep.
Yeah, this
Yes. Number 2, I think, has part of Wood Creek.
2 is,
So does 3. And so does 1.
what is the goal of this one?
His goal on this one was to reach the lowest deviation possible.
Oh.
He did a pretty good job at that. He also did a fairly good job at dividing some of the attendance areas, except for Antelope. You can see that Granite Bay is divided there, and number 4 also cuts through Roseville and West Park.
Okay.
Okay. These are maps that I drew. The first map that I did was numbered 101, was simply to come up with the most common sense drawing for the district. Let me see if I have the, yeah, I do have the population numbers
You
here.
don't have 'em, yeah.
I tend to really go low on the deviations, so as to be as equally populous as possible. It's a habit that I have from working with counties and cities.
So your total deviation is 3.28% on that one?
It's 3.28 on this one, yeah. And like I said, it's a common sense drawing of the district. You have Granite Bay in one district, Antelope North in a second one, the Northwest.
Okay. What's your next one?
And you can see, if you go back to, if you can put the two in front of you, this one is going to look pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Any comments on this?
Nope.
Okay. So then I said, okay, let's divide these areas up. And so I started at the lake, went right down Douglas Boulevard, a little bit beyond Highway 80, and came up with what is numbered District 2 there. District 1 and to split this Granite Bay area right in half. District 2 runs up into the Roseville High School area. District 3, which is the right-hand side of Antelope, goes up through, is that West Park?
That's,
And comes into Roseville High School as well.
Yep.
Number 4, which is that skinny district on the left, has 4 different attendance areas in it. And then District 5 will wrap around that and have 1, 2, I think it has that blue area of Oakmont,
yeah, it's got 3
so it has
or
3.
4. It's got some of Wood Creek too. And Roseville.
So this was my best stab at splitting the attendance areas between as many of the 5 districts as possible, and we came up with a total deviation of 5.2%.
Did you have another one?
I'm sorry?
Did you have another one, or was? Did you
Yes, I have one more, and it was an attempt to mimic Mr. Constant's map 5, and I got it a little more deviation. It's deviation a little lower. It's 3.7 in this instance. But this is the one of Mr. Constant's maps that does a pretty good job of dividing up attendance
Yeah.
areas, except for the Antelope area.
Yep.
Let's look at my District 1, because that has, yeah, it bleeds over into Wood Creek just a bit. But it's mostly, is that Oakmont or West Park in the north corner?
in the upper left and number
Upper
1?
left.
West Park.
So this one does not do as good a job of dividing the areas as 102 does. 102 does a better job at equal population. I'm sorry. 103 does a better job of equal population than either my 102 or Mr. Constant's map. One thing I should point out, this thing here that sticks out like that, Mr. Constant has it in his map also. That's the area of Roseville that has the highest concentration of Latinos in your district, and you don't want to split that area up.
That's got to stay together. It's 68.
68,
Oh,
is it 66, 68, 69?
yeah, 68 and 72 has the Latino community in it.
72 are the two that have,
Mm-hmm.
should stay together.
Yep.
And if you look at the other map, those areas are together most often when you look at all the maps, they will be in this District 3 that's usually associated with Antelope. So that area right there.
Okay. So is that the only, those are the only areas that really should stay together is 68 and 72.
Yeah, on the
Right.
paper maps that were on your website, those two areas should stay together.
Okay. There was one other, I did submit one also. It wasn't in the packet. It didn't get over to you. But this is the one I submitted.
Yeah, I have a copy of it in front of me.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the numbers on it. Let's see, where's mine?
You have a 7.6 oh, okay,
Yep.
it's on the screen now.
Yeah. It's 7.6 total, but you've got, with this one, every trust, so West Park would have 2 representatives, Roseville would have 2 representatives, Wood Creek would have 3, Antelope would have 2, Oakmont 4, Granite Bay High School 2. So every school would have multiple representatives, but then each trustee, Area 1 touches 3 schools, Area 2 touches 2, Area 3 touches 3, Area 4 touches 2 schools, and 5 touches 2 schools. So it divides them up.
Mhm.
The black lines are the attendance boundaries. I will tell you, I spent a lot of time looking, when I was trying to do this, I held up a 8.5 by 11 version of our map, and I was holding it up to the light to see, okay, where do these things match up? And I had to scale it down just right, depending on whose map it was, because some of the maps came in smaller. And
Right.
so, anyway,
I had an email exchange with Joe today, and if you guys have a GIS person on your staff, we could work with that person to establish a boundary, the boundaries in the maps that we actually draw.
might, yeah.
So what I'd love to hear from either the board and from the public, what do you like? What do you not like? What would you direct me to do to a map or a set of maps and bring them back next time so you can look at them and perhaps say, okay, this is the one, and we will make this our final map. That's the intent here.
So the intent is for you to have a final map when you come back next time?
That's correct.
Or close to it?
I could have a set of maps that you could look at and you could pick one of them.
Got it.
Or you could just tell me some general principles of, please do this, this, and this, and then I will bring one map that does that.
Well, how about if we do this? Before we do that, how about if we open up for public comment, see if there's public comment, because there's nothing that'll put you on the edge of your seat quite like drawing maps.
Unless you're a sicko like me.
All right, so 7:39 p.m., we'll go ahead and open the public comment. Members of the public, does anybody wish to address the board on maps? Karen, please. How did I know? I know.
First of all, I would say, hi, Karen Combest. First of all, I would say, thank you so much for the opportunity to draw a map. That was fun. But as you can see, I didn't really spend a whole lot of time on it. So I just looked at the map and drew lines based on roads. That's it, pretty much. With the intent, which has been talked about for months now, of keeping, having two, splitting districts, basically.
Yeah.
Not having one trustee for each school. So what I will say, though, is in attempting to do the exercise, it was really, really not user-friendly. Is that feedback for anyone? I mean, it was really...
No, it was not.
It was not user-friendly,
Yeah.
which is why I didn't spend the 3 hours that Marla Franz did, who's not here tonight because she couldn't make it. But she did provide population data in her exhibit. Okay, so she said that. And then she tried to have an equal balance of school population per trustee, like not 75% of Granite Bay and 25% of Oakmont, more like 50-50. And then she had a higher deviation See, this is why I didn't spend time. She had a higher deviation because she, with one of them, because she was allowing for growth around West Park, which I think is an expectation that
Yeah.
there will be more and more houses out there, right? So that district will grow. So, so that was her feedback, and I do know that she spent 3 hours
Yeah.
doing this.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, and that she really put a lot of thought into it, and she's really super smart when it comes to math. And again, I just drew on the map based on lines, so I didn't spend any time figuring out population, but that was my feedback.
Since you were so bold enough to stand up, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How important is it to you to have trustees that overlay more than one school?
Well, I'd prefer it stay like it is right now, where all
I-
5 of you
I'm with you.
support the entire district
I'm
for
with you.
obvious reasons.
I'm with you.
So it's super important that a trustee, to me, it's super important to me that a trustee have more than one school. If they can have more than 2 schools, that would be great. But I don't think our map really aligns with that, except for maybe on the western side of Roseville.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do that on the Granite Bay, Oakmont side, but you might be able to get more than 2 on the other side
Yeah.
of Roseville.
And how about the flip side of that? How important would it be to have every school to have more than one trustee? So each school would have.
Well, I think that would be optimal, but I don't know how realistic it is based on. I mean, I think you could do it for some, but not all, based on what I saw on the map. But like I said, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on
Yeah.
it.
Good.
So
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment and limit debate or limit conversation among staff and the board at 7:43. So board members, what are your thoughts? What do you like? What do you not like about the maps? What do you think?
Oh, there we go. I definitely think the priority should be making sure each school has as many trustees as possible. Meaning, like, if I'm a parent, I'm a parent at Roseville High School, I want to know that more than one of us is invested, right? Like, the more trustees that are attached to a school is what my preference is. So I don't know which one of those that is now, 'cause I have them all jumbled up, but I think it's maybe the one that you made, where one of them has 2 and one of them has 3.
Marla's is pretty close.
Okay.
Marla one, I
One.
think, was pretty close also.
Okay.
Mine, the difference between hers and mine had, I think, one more in one of the schools, but they were pretty close.
Okay. Let's see. 1, 2. Yeah, they're very similar. I see that. So that's my feedback.
Okay.
They look good.
Julie, thoughts?
What I don't know is where everybody's at right now, where all of our board members are at right now.
I can't hear.
Where
I'm
we
sorry.
live here. I'm curious where I don't know where anybody lives, but I'm
Yeah.
curious where current board members live.
I was not aware of where any board member lived when I drew the maps. You may remember the discussion we had with Mr. Constant at the last meeting. So I
Yeah.
wasn't given that information until just a couple days ago.
Yeah, and you should have been given it before, but that's okay. But you do have it now.
I do have it now.
Okay. So
Nobody's in 5, right?
nobody's in 5. So no matter how you slice it, let's talk about the elephant in the room for a minute. Can you put up
a map.
a map, anyone?
Nobody's in 5 of any of these, right?
Right now we have questions and comments. Go to the last. Oh, you've got the clicker.
6 of the 8.
Clicker does not appear to be working at this moment. I'm sorry?
Okay. And not Heidi. She's always by herself. And then Andrew gets. But nobody's in Granite Bay.
Here we go.
Okay, so
Oh, these are the people?
I've got the numbers here.
Andrew.
I think one of the, I think yours might be easier if you bring yours up.
Oh, yeah. Go, put mine up, would you? The one that,
There could be a margin of error depending on sometimes trying to figure out.
There you
so
go.
this one was drawn, this one was, by the way, there are two other intents, and I don't want to, dominate because I'm here, but there were two other intents with this map. One of them is something that Karen mentioned a minute ago, which is there's going to be tremendous growth on the west side. So I split West Park into two with on the bottom line on number 1 right there.
Right there?
That way, all of the growth that's coming on the west side will be divided among Area 1 and Area 3, right? But the other thing that this map does, so I live in Area 4.
Right there,
Pete lives in Area 12, just below it.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, this, on this
Yeah,
side.
on the west side of that. Julie lives in Area 53, which is directly to the east of number 4 by about 4 sections up.
Right here?
Go up and to the left.
Not towards the one,
Right here.
Up and up further,
not towards the white.
further. 53. Up
Not towards the white.
to the left, straight left. Stop right there. You have a big circle on Julie's house right there. So that's where Julie lives. Andrew's in 49, straight down. Right, too far. Right there,
there.
49 to the left. Yep, that one. Andrew lives there. And Heidi, you live in,
Right here.
I believe it's 63, on the left edge of 63. No matter how you slice it, and I'll just say this, because of where I live, Pete lives, and where Julie lives, there is no way to, I don't think, to divide these up so everybody has a district, so we all remain on the board. And I'll use the words to honor the will of the prior voters of this district. Having said that, there is a way, some of these maps have as many as 4 board members in that northwest district, leaving 1 in another area and 3 of them without, which is, I will use the word suboptimal. So no matter how you slice it, there's, it's likely that it's likely that I will share a district with someone. The map I have here currently has it with Julie and I, but that line could be drawn, that line right there where you're at, could be drawn straight up, follow the curved line to put that in area number 3, and then you could adjust area number 3 on the east side of that to shave some off, and you can massage those a little bit to make that work, and that would put Pete and I in the same district. Although,
If I'm not mistaken, the two ladies here are both up in 24, 22.
yes, 24.
24.
They're both up in 24, as well as Pete Constant.
Yes.
And Andrew Tagg and I are up in 2022. Which, by the way, the reason why, I'll explain to my board member, the reason why he also needed addresses, it's not just for mere convenience. It's also because one of the things they have to analyze is the sequencing. When will these districts be up?
Yeah.
When will they come up for election?
Right. The last item we will take up when we select the map is to sequence the 5 districts. And you can do it 1, 3, 5, 2, and 4. You can do it whatever way you want. You can number the districts whatever you want, but you have to specify which districts will be up in which election year.
Now, I'll also say this, and correct me if I'm wrong. The last election that we had was a general election. So the whole district.
Yeah.
So Heidi and Julie and Pete, regardless of what district they end up in, they will serve their terms through 2024.
That is correct.
Yep.
That is correct.
Okay.
As I used to say to state senators who have 4-year terms, you were elected to a 4-year term. No one can take that away from you. You are in the Senate for 4 years. If they switch numbers on you and your number comes up next year, then you have to make a decision whether you run in that district
Yeah.
or whether you sit in the Senate for the remainder of your term.
Although they can take it away from themselves by their behavior, but
Yeah, that's one way to get rid of a senator, but the other
Criminal-
is by
criminal behavior.
election.
yeah. Anyway, thoughts?
I like this map. I like this map.
Which one do you like?
I
Lisa?
like the one we're looking at because it seems to create the broadest representation for the community. Yeah.
By the way, while you're,
Do you want to move?
yeah, we just did up
wanna
into
move
that,
your
up in that corner. I will make a comment just so the record is clear. I did ask, knowing that Pete was not going to be here tonight and Andrew was not going to be here tonight, I did ask them both if they wanted to provide written comments so that we could, you know, have their opinions and their comments. Pete said he was going to, Andrew said he probably wouldn't be able to, he just wasn't feeling up to it. And Pete said he would, but I know he has a lot going on right now with a couple of crunch time deadlines. So I checked my email, I didn't see anything, and I just asked John a minute ago, he didn't get anything either. So that's not that they don't care about it, it's just that, you know, they just had other things going on. So what information do you need from us? What additional information do you need from us?
I need you to say something like, I like the Huber map, where the consensus, this doesn't have to be a motion. I like the Huber map, I like Friends 2, or I like 102. If, use that as a base map, Mr. Yocum, and come back at their next hearing and maybe tweak it to add a trustee area, add an attendance area, mess around a little bit with the numbers so that it's either less equal population or more equal population. Just give me a general, because we're looking at Mr. Huber's map, and it's not the 9.5, no, that's Franz 2. Yours is around 7% deviation.
Yep.
So it's certainly within the parameters. But tell me if you want me to move a line here or there, or add an attendance area here, or something like that, to any of the maps. But if you want to focus on one, please tell me that.
I like Huber for a variety of reasons. I would tweak it a little bit, and I don't know how, because I don't have all the numbers and the mapping tool and all that thing all in front of me, but I would probably make a couple of recommendations based on just perceived boundaries mostly. So if the math would still work out and the perceived boundaries made sense, that's the changes I would make. And
Can I ask what perceived boundaries means?
so fit them into Major Street. And so that feels like a perceived boundary in our community. So
Yeah.
it runs kind of north and south ish.
It's the red line going down.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's a perceived boundary. Also, I don't know if it would make sense for Area 4 as the perceived boundary of Douglas. I'm presuming that's Douglas. It goes all the way straight down.
Yeah,
To
that
the
is
end.
Douglas, it goes down to the end.
Yeah, to the end.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you add like this area to 4, you would have to subtract up here or
Right,
down here.
and so then I would pull some of that up into 1.
And there's a trustee located right there.
Well, yeah, and we can't, well, I would pull in 64 and 66 into 1. And I think that is, that's not Diamond Oaks, what is that?
Yeah, it might be.
64 and 66 is Diamond Oaks? No, wait, I gotta look at this other map.
I know.
It is Pleasant Grove and Washington. No, it is Washington and Junction, I think. Or yeah, Junction. I pull 64 and 66 into one.
66?
Yeah. 64 and 66, I pull that into one. I do the Fitment thing, I do the Douglas thing.
Could I get her microphone turned up so I can
Oh,
hear?
sorry, okay. Well, you want me to just point to it up here?
Oh.
Would that be easier?
Yes, that would be great. We're all the way to the lake. Mm-hmm. Okay.
You're taking away from, yeah.
Yeah, 5 is almost perfectly populated in this, on this map. So 4 is the one that has, it's over, and 3 is over. So if you take away from 3, you can take away from 3, but then number 1, you can balance between 3 and 1.
Maybe some, how about some generalities? Let me help with a couple of generalities. One of them is you want to see the line go up Fitment, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. One possible change.
Other than brilliant, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'll tell you right now, there is a lot of people up here.
There's a lot of people, right?
Mhm. Think so, if I'm not mistaken. They may not be there yet. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a lot of people right here,
Yes.
and they don't show up on your
There's a lot of people right there.
sheet.
In 1, 4, and 3,
Mm-hmm.
in 1 you have 86.
Yeah.
In 3 you have 1851.
Mm-hmm.
And in 4 you have 2235.
Yeah, that's a lot of folks.
So you got 3,
So you'd have to find an equal amount.
you got 4,000 people in those areas that you'd have to
Mhm.
find in some
Yeah,
other area.
You'd have to find an equal amount right here, and I believe there's a trustee right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 and 4 and 1 and 12.
Well, it's
So I'm
just
hearing
it's
that
just
you
a
like
thought.
the hu-
It's just a thought. I'm just,
Yeah.
kind of just trying some recommendations based on, as I said, some perceived boundaries.
Yeah. I'm hearing that you like the Huber map.
And I agree, I like the Huber map. Good job. And I get what you're saying about the perceived boundaries, but I guess for me, it just doesn't matter, only because visually it looks wonky no matter what. They all do a little bit, but we just have to know the reasoning for that, which is trying to get multiple trustees representing each school and be able to explain that. And I think that people are going to understand that.
That's the ultimate standard I'm hearing from the board, is that as many trustees as representing as many areas as possible.
Right. So yeah, 10 years from now, when people are wondering, why is it like this? You know, it'll make perfect sense. And whether the perceived boundaries are there or not, I don't think is as important. It does make it a little bit easier, to Julie's point. But I think that it's going to make it really difficult to get all the geographic
Yeah.
parameters or
It may
the,
not be important to you as a trustee, but you as a person
Yeah.
who goes to the district, it might be. So I don't, it may not be possible. That's all.
yeah, I would wonder what people, what the public thinks about that. Like, is it helpful, to use those big streets like that? So either way, I like Scott's, the Huber map.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this Huber map, I'm going to place it in my little system. I'll clean up that right there, make sure that everything is together that needs to be together. I'll explore moving this area here, down here, but that would require something to go on right here, which I don't think would be optimal.
Yeah.
Miss Hall, generally, is that your area right there? Where am I?
Yeah,
Next,
I don't know what number.
next to it,
One more to the
Or
right.
down
to the
here?
right, to the
To the
right,
right.
Oh, she's
right
over
there.
there.
That's
Okay.
hers.
I can't even see the street.
Okay. Yeah, I've,
What number? 63?
and on this map, 5 has there's no trustee in 5? No trustee in 5.
Not anymore.
Now, I also, one other request, and this gets to the language of the resolution that we adopt, by the way, and I mentioned this before. There is the City of Santa Monica case that is still pending before the Supreme Court. Is that right? It's still pending, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to have any effect on this. I could envision the court making a ruling saying if you have a certain population in certain categories, in certain racial categories below a particular number, then you don't have to have by-district elections. So I'll provide some language, I call it poison pill language, so that in the event that the Supreme Court makes that ruling, where they sort of split the baby and say if it's above a certain number, you have to have districts, and if it's below a certain threshold, then you don't. I think we should include that language in whatever resolution we pass, so that if the Supreme Court rules, I'll use the phrase the right way, although I don't know that that's the right way, but you get what I mean, then we don't have to revisit it. The districts are automatically gone. Well, that's not a question, that's just.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not going to say anything. You're an attorney,
Yep,
and
I
you're
know.
much better at that particular issue than me. I do believe that they're going to try to split the baby.
Yeah,
I think they're going to do that.
What's the timing?
I don't know. It's been fully briefed, I think, right?
But yes,
But
but they
they've not
haven't
had,
scheduled a hearing.
they've had no oral argument on it, which.
No oral argument. So
Which-
we don't know why.
Yeah, I will tell you, I had a case go in front of the Supreme Court, and much to the chagrin of my colleagues at law school, because they, that's like the ideal, you always want to have a case go to the Supreme Court, but lightning in a bottle happened, I got one that went, the case had never been decided, from start to finish, the case took 11 years.
Oh, boy.
And it's obscene, but
What do you
just
think?
with the Supreme Court, it was about 3 years, 3 to 3.5.
That's not a baby anymore.
Yeah, we split the child.
Is there a possibility that they will just carve out Santa Monica and say, you don't have to do this, but we're not going to talk about the rest of the state?
I doubt it. I doubt it, because what that would do is it would guarantee more cases coming to the Supreme Court. That's what it would guarantee. So I don't think they'll do that. But anyway, that's just, who knows?
So let me make sure that I've heard everything I need to hear from you all.
Or what are we calling that? Not the standard deviation, we're calling it
Total deviation?
the total deviation. Can go, does it matter how close we get to 10%?
No.
No, so we can go anything under 10%, so it really doesn't, okay. So you'll explore
I
that.
don't recommend 9.9.
Right.
And I don't think I would draw anything
Okay.
close to that.
Okay. In seeing, I'd be interested in seeing if there is a way to kind of address those natural boundaries. I'm happy to provide you the information where I think those are. It's just me, what I think, but, and just see if we can get there. If we can't, we can't. I think this is good. I think it meets a lot of the objectives that we listed in our board meeting when we set directions, so.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if there's nothing else, I believe I've completed my presentation.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments? No? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for working on it.
Okay, back to item 4.3, and April, thank you very
Oh,
much.
April.
All right. So to frame, this is our annual, what will be an annual presentation. You might remember it as board goals, different data things. We've done different workshops, different approaches. So just reminding you that we have an LCAP that's a 3-year LCAP. And a couple of the components that we use in framing, we always remind ourselves of our mission statement to ignite, inspire, and prepare all students, that multiple paths. We're looking at college, career, life, that beyond high school, what are our students seeking to do and how do we prepare them for that? And to that end, our plan includes the 4 goal areas around college, career, life, academic achievement, student and parent engagement, and inclusion. The state has a variety of priorities and metrics that are required, and then we have some local metrics that we've added in as well. But they have 8 state priorities in 3 different categories, and I'm just going to briefly go through some of these. You'll see basic services. Are we keeping the facilities clean? Do we provide the materials? Some basic things all the way to school climate, engagement, involvement. And in each of those areas, there's specific metrics that we're monitoring. So we're not reporting out on every single one of them tonight. These are things that we monitor and watch throughout the year. And we'll remind you, we have our LCAP Community Advisory Group that will be meeting in a couple of weeks, going really in depth with this data and more to make sense of it, see what questions, and that will help as we're developing and updating our plan, which we're able to do each year. So we have metrics, enrollment, access, materials, standards, variety of ways that we characterize our student achievement and other outcomes, such as State Seal of Biliteracy or a local thing that we've done to the Inside Out coaching. The state also reports a lot of our information on the state dashboard, so we'll reference that a couple of times. And first of all, it's just who are we serving? We have, as you know, over 10,000 students. Whenever possible, we're using state certified data in the presentation for the past year. So if you went on to the state dashboard right now, this is what they would tell you from what we certified last year, our population. And you can see some of our different student groups that make up our students. So when we look at serving all of our students and meeting our goals with each of the students that we serve, the college and career readiness is really huge as a high school district. This is a primary focus for us as we're supporting our students. And I wanted to spend just a moment on this to share the 8 different indicators the state uses to show is a student upon graduation prepared for college and career. And the state has indicated 8 ways, but they're growing a couple of different indicators each year. And you could see everything from Smarter Balance, just a test, are they scoring proficient? Or advanced placement and IB tests, are they scoring proficient and advanced in these areas? To taking college credit courses, our dual enrollment, and scoring C's or better. And in any of these ways, our students could be saying, yes, I took 2 college courses, boom, I'm considered college and career ready on the state indicators. Or I took 2 IB exams and scored 4 or higher, I'm ready, I'm prepared. And so they don't have to hit all of these 8. It's any one or more of these 8 categories would have a student categorized as meeting the college and career readiness indicator that the state has. You'll see CTE in there, and some of them have multiple pieces. So it's CTE if you're a pathway completer, then you need either to add a test score through Smarter Balanced or a dual enrollment class. If you meet A through G course sequence, you need to add something else. So add a CTE completer, Smarter Balanced test, college credit, advanced placement, or IB. Mr. Huber? It's just to categorize the different 8 indicators. Yes.
Oh, we used to talk a lot about Project Lead the Way and its relationship to CTE. Do all the Project Lead the Way classes fall into qualified as CTE? They do.
Yes, and so a Project Lead the Way path, a student that took the whole path would be a CTE completer.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
So this is really foundational when I look at it, where the team, our sites look at our LCAP data, how are we doing? So many of our indicators point back to this, and they're a subset or a piece of, or they're helping us to monitor, are our students on track to be meeting these state indicators of college and career readiness. So you'll see that, like, we already talked at a recent meeting about our A through G audit that we're doing. Well, that's category 8 is huge, and many of our students meet through category 8. They're A through G completers, and they take a CTE pathway, and they take an AP test and score well. And so we have so many different ways our students can succeed, and we're continuing to monitor these.
I think it's really interesting that the state qualifier of career and college readiness is a high school diploma plus one of the 8 options. I just think that's interesting. That's all. Not sure how I feel about that.
So how are we doing in these areas? Let's take a look a little bit more detailed. So CCI is how we abbreviate College and Career Indicator. And in the CCI, you'll see in the past couple of years, we're doing all right. We're actually on the high end of this, but we could do so much better because our goal is all students. And we're doing 61 to 59% last year, 2 years ago. We don't have last year's data certified yet. It's a very complex formula, as you can imagine, with all those different categories. So we're waiting on the state to calculate that for us. But our goal is to continue to move forward and increase by at least 1% for all of our students and 2% in some of our key cohorts to build them up, and so that all of our students are achieving at high levels.
Why 1 or 2%?
That's how the plan was written. It's achievable. It's each year we're looking at that. Frankly, we'd love to go higher, but that's how the plan was written at the time.
So it's self-defined or state-defined?
Self-defined.
Self-defined, okay.
Yep. Yeah, it will be a while until we have another state dashboard that has the colors and the green and all of that, because we've had some strange years for a variety of reasons that we all know. So we're not going to have those type of matrix from the state for a while, but we're still monitoring these ourselves. So again, the different components, CTE completers, how did we do? We wrote our particular goal as the number of students completing. And so for the last year, we have data for internal data was 401. So that our goal would be to increase at least 20 new students completing. That's upon graduation completing. Now we're actually doing really well. We're on track to have well over 500 completers this year. So we're not holding ourselves back by the goals that may be written. We're not saying, oh yeah, 20 kids is fine. No, we want as many as possible, as many as it fits and makes sense for them. And so well over 500 are expected to complete this year. And just a note on this data, again, as I mentioned, it's reported from our internal system. The state has been changing the coding of courses over the past few years, and our team has been adjusting and cleaning that up each year. So we're still in that cleanup phase because of students with us for 4 years, if they took a course in the 9th grade that the state changed a code on, our numbers wouldn't add up to the state's numbers immediately. And so we're getting pretty close to be equal and clean with the state data as our students graduate and our courses are clean. And so this year, we're expecting to have clean data reported for those 500 plus students.
Do internships fall under CTE, any kind of CTE achievement?
They are factored into the pathways. It is not yet its own indicator on the CCI yet.
And we can't decide that. That's a state thing.
We can add a local metric and monitor that. And so that's absolutely something we could add into our plan. The state is trying to, it's one of their goals, and they're having a hard time quantifying it statewide. So what you would hear from them is we do a really good job of quantifying all the college readiness indicators and less well on the career readiness indicators. And so they're looking at adding internships or work experience or other components like that. And it's just a little bit delayed as they look statewide. How do we gather all the data? How do all the districts report it? But it is absolutely a goal and it's something we do look at internally.
No, I'm just going to say with it, it's the CTE program completer is really just the intro and the concentration. So it's really the 3 classes. Most of ours have 4 plus an intern. So we have some kids that have probably done well far and beyond what they're asking for. So we have kids that'll go 4 classes in Project Lead the Way and then do a 5th, which is an internship, say at Sutter or Kaiser. So they're actually going far above and beyond in many of our CTE pathways. But they only look at it as 3 courses, then you're a completer.
Yeah, okay. And then in terms of the student to faculty ratio and increasing this by X amount of percent, is there a place where you're going to get to where there's not enough classes offered or faculty teaching that's going to inhibit growth?
I'm sure we will at some point, but we're
Yeah.
not there
Not
yet.
yet.
Yeah, so we've been visiting classes even today. We're like, okay, we could do more. And our teachers are passionate in growing their programs. So far, we've been able to hire. We've been getting some great grants to support it. So we're very motivated to support them. At some point, we'll hit a threshold where we've maxed
But
out.
what's really good though is you take like photography or music. They're taking programs that weren't traditionally CTE and turning them into CTE. So you have an art teacher who is doing professional photography now as a CTE program, or here at Wood Creek with the music program. So we're seeing a little bit more of that. They're getting creative, and then with Shane Wagner and his group over there, they're doing a great job of finding the funding and massaging the language for them to get off the ground. So.
This, I was trying to look for it on the other screen, but I cannot see. What constitutes a CTE program completer? Like how many CTE classes would one take in 4 years?
It's a certain number of hours. I believe it's about 300 hours. And in our process, I believe our typical is a 3-class sequence. And each district gets to determine how many courses that is, and we certify our courses and the pathway with the state. So I believe our typical is at least a 3-course, and as Mr. Becker mentioned, many of our students are taking more. It is an absolute perk of our 4x4 schedule. Our students can take more classes, have access to these electives. It's a blessing. So another area we saw was the college credit course and dual enrollment. We are working in partnership with Sierra College to come back with a separate dual enrollment presentation later this semester. We know there's a lot we could share around dual enrollment, but this is simply a snapshot from last year's enrollment to show the proportion of students. As you know, the legislation for college dual enrollment classes is emphasizing students who are first generation or would not have already been going to college. And our counselors, our schools are doing a great job of adding students in. And you can see in the gray bars would show the proportion of students in our system. And we are in some cases exceeding their proportion. In other cases, we're right there, getting our students who are in these groups that might not already be going to college, might not see themselves as college going, to take a class while in high school. And part of the presentation we'll come back to you with is showing their success, because it is phenomenal. And we are just about to get the data from first semester, so we're wanting to add that into to the presentation we bring you in a few months. So we're monitoring enrollment, access, we're monitoring success. Are they being successful? And then what supports do we need to provide them? Another area is AP and IB. Are our students getting in the courses? So here you see some enrollment information. And then what we would monitor on the other side is, are they being successful? I will add, we've received some community feedback on the slides, and we're looking to adjust them to make sure that we're showing more of the students, because we do want to continue to increase enrollment and access for all. We happen to call out some of the specific students that were written into our plan, our local plan, on these slides, but we are monitoring and encouraging growth of enrollment for all students. And then we look at the student achievement. You saw our goals around, are our students achieving well? We've talked about learning loss. We've been monitoring these areas. And so in our LCAP metrics, we have metrics looking at specific key courses and how are we doing, like IM1, Integrated Math 1 and 2. And are they getting those C or better grades? Those are important grades if they're going to be A through G, that category 8 on the CCI. And so you can see where we were at from the 2021, so last school year, and what the goal would be for this year. And again, we never hold ourselves back by those goals. That's the minimum that we would want to be seeing growth, and our teachers are certainly working diligently on that. I will say we started our screener this week. Our teachers have been amazing. We had over 80 teachers at our training on Monday, their first day back learning, and we've been visiting classrooms, seeing them get that going. So we're looking forward to seeing that data soon. This sometimes I call autopsy data, because it's after the fact and what are we going to do about it? But the screener helps us with the proactive, formative data that we can use while they're in the class and support our students real time with their learning. Yes.
This isn't just key cohorts on this slide, right?
Correct.
This
It's
is
all
students.
all students
Do you
in
have it
9th and
broken
10th.
down by the key cohorts also somewhere?
I certainly could follow up with that. I don't have it in this presentation.
Yep, take your time. I'm just curious.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you. One of the
I mean, I'm glad. I'm not complaining. I just don't remember these numbers being this high.
So one of the things,
don't.
yeah, I mean, I know we saw high DNF rates, so that would be the flip of this, right? So the DNF rate would be in Integrated Math 1, that 27% is the opposite of this.
I wonder if I'm thinking about the CASP,
Could be.
because the CASP would not look like this, I'm thinking.
Right, that is
Okay.
that is correct.
Okay. It might be a CASP that I'm thinking of.
The SB 359 is the math placement legislation that we had pass through a few years ago, and we follow here on how do we place our students, and we work with our partner districts as their students are coming into 9th grade and what math classes are they taking, and making sure that we're supporting them. But that legislation also does require us to report out annually to you 3 specific types of data. So these next 3 slides are required for me to present to you annually in these presentations. So this is the grade distribution for last year for our 9th graders in IM1. And you can see how they did. And you can see where we combined, if it was no credit, we combined that with our F grades, or if it was credit, we called that a C for this purpose.
This is 2021.
Correct. Yeah, this is last year. And then after this year, we'll, because we have them in both semesters, we'll be able to report out. Yes.
And this is a test that they take at the end of the class.
This is just the grade they got at the end of the class.
They're, okay.
Yeah.
So were these numbers higher than they were in 2019 and 20, or in pre-pandemic?
I will follow up.
Because that, again, I'm curious, and if we could split it, maybe the second semester of 2019, 20.
Basically to see
beginning.
the
Yeah,
COVID.
that would be a real anomaly. So I'm thinking the first semester of when we started out in full distance learning, but then we transitioned to a hybrid. I'm curious what those.
And that one in general statewide is positive because we did the whole hold harmless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those grades,
Yes, remember they could do pass, no pass, they get,
Yeah, but wasn't that it?
even last year they had the option.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We did have some.
yeah,
of that.
and March, you know,
Yeah,
in that spring
that's right.
2020. Yeah, so we have a few years of strange data. So when we were looking at how do we present, we opted for a little more simple, but happy to follow up with some of the details. This slide shows how many of our 9th graders are passing with a D or better in the blue or not by these groups that we're required to report for.
Well, here's another question. How does this correlate with, is there any way to compare, and maybe these are, we're talking about apples and oranges, but is there any way to compare the students with these grades with how they did on the standardized tests like SAT, ACT? Because that would be somewhat of a demonstrator of maybe some learning loss, or maybe they didn't grasp some subjects, or because the grade is one thing, and I know, look, there were a lot of accommodations made for a lot of reasons, appropriately so. That's not a critical comment, but I'm wondering, could that be a measure of potential, learning loss potential?
Right.
So they're not going to
Oh,
take
they're not
that
gonna be
test for
taking
a
those
couple of
anyways,
years,
yeah.
and it's going away pretty much anyway, so it's not, and depending on where they go, but,
Yeah,
so that's the other hard part, is many of these kids won't be the ones actually taking that test.
that's a shame.
So that's the hard, this is a baseline to start, is that correct? This is just a baseline data that we have to do because of SB 359.
I'll tell you my jaded view. It's a shame that's going away because it's one of the only things that the state of California can't mess with. Truly, it's a standardized test. They can't touch it. They can't do anything about it, and it is what it is. No offense to those that are messing with stuff in California.
So while it won't fix everything, we are looking forward to our screener data because we're taking the test. Our students in English and math in 9th grade and 10th are taking the test at the beginning of the semester and at the end. So I would like to see the comparison here with how do they do on that screener at the end of the year, because it's based on the standards, and that might help us with some correlation. So we'll know this year if that helps us with the screener data compared with this. And then the last slide for this purpose is how are our students in these various groups doing, passing with a C- or better, again, eligible for A through G, and it's an indicator of them being on track. So those are some of the ways we're looking at data, and wanted to bring that to you. I'm going to go back to our LCAP metrics now. And our science test, our state science test, our students typically take it in 11th grade. We have a goal around that. And where we were last spring, when we did have quite a few of our students taking the test this year, last spring, as you know, we were open for business and we pretty decent participation rates. We were at a 47%. So we're seeing that as a baseline. We can go up from here. And so our teachers are taking a look at that and seeing how do we support our students.
When was NGSS implemented across all the, across the entire curriculum here? Do you know when it was fully implemented?
Oh.
Hasn't been that long, right?
Biology was, I think, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Chemistry maybe 2, and physics is 1 or 2, somewhere
Still,
around there.
yeah, and they're
Okay.
still refining and building it out. So, yeah. it has
Because
been
I just wonder how good this data is with that transition.
Yeah, and this one's been interesting because I think 1 year we did seniors, and then another year we had to do juniors. And
Okay,
part
so
of
not
it's in the
good
mix.
data.
And so what you get is a lot of kids who will get a biology test as a junior or senior and go, I haven't taken this class in 3 years.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of an interesting test. It used to be at the sophomore level when it was a different test or subject specific for science, which made it easier. You took biology, you took it right after you took the biology class. So it's a little bit different. So
Yeah.
fidelity, student fidelity to this test is questionable.
Yeah, I've always been curious about the science standard. I mean, it's just,
It's a lot of different types of science to take after the 3 years. So,
anyway, okay.
in 9th grade bio, we also are looking at, again, these indicators of how do we know if our students are on track? Are we serving them well? Are they being successful? Again, this is all students. And so we also see how are they doing at earning C's or better. And it was 81% last year, so we're looking to continue to increase that. We have a couple of metrics for our English learners. These are required metrics with the state. And as you know, with everything the past couple of years, it's been a little bit strange. And so you'll see that they weren't met. Now we're going to report their essentially baseline for our new plan, but these were some of the metrics that we actually had in our prior LCAP as well. And we had planned to increase, and we dropped. But there are a lot of reasons why, because one of the reasons we dropped in our reclassification is that we didn't have CASP data for a lot of our students, and we didn't do the district writing assessment last year because of all of the various things going on. And without the district writing assessment, we were using that or CASP. CASP is only for 11th graders as one of the 4 required criteria. So even though we had the other 3 criteria to reclassify students, we didn't have that 4th one available to us. And so we saw that drop. I'm really happy to let you know that this year we did the district writing assessment. And so as soon as we could, we started reclassifying students that were qualified. And our team, our counselors, our teachers have been working really hard on that. And so we're going to be seeing that bouncing back essentially because we had all the 4 indicators available to us to do so. And the screener, of course, is helping. Our ELD classes have been using the screener for some time. They really appreciate it, and they'll continue to do so. There's the LPAC, the test our students take for reclassification. It's a very difficult test. Our students last year did struggle. So again, we went down 1%. And so we're looking and supporting them to achieve at higher levels on that test this year, and we're optimistic about that. But we're not just waiting for it to happen. We're working diligently and supporting the students in the areas that they were low to build their proficiency. And one of our internal metrics that we wanted to share an update on is the Inside Out coaching. That is a goal to continue and provide support for our administrators and ultimately through them, our coaches, our athletic directors. So this is just kind of a snapshot of as of last month. We had half of our site administrators trained and 83% of our athletic directors. We have a new one. So we're getting the new person trained as well. But we expect to meet our goal far earlier than May of 2024 for our site administrators and athletic directors to be trained in this. And then they will continue to support our coaches and teams and such in the implementation. So that's a snapshot of where we're at. A lot of this is baseline. So next year we would expect to come back and say, okay, here's how we're doing. Here's our next level of goals. But we're also looking at how do we revise our goals. It's a little bit tricky because it's a 3-year plan and the way we have to report it. But we're looking at those nuances of why the 1%, as you mentioned, or different components. We think we can tighten it up a bit. And those are all things that we have in the works. Any final comments or questions?
I can ask it later. I'm curious about the SB 359.
Okay.
I am one in math placement, but it's not necessarily related. I'm just curious about it. But
Great,
I'll
we'll
ask
follow
you.
up.
Yeah.
Julie?
I'm thinking, but I can't think of how to say it, so I'm not going to.
Okay. Dr. Moore, thank you very much.
Thanks. My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to action matters. Item 6.1, approve the board meeting dates for the 2022 calendar year. Yeah.
Decide our meeting dates for the 2022 year. So the attachment there based on the conversations from our previous meeting. It looks like it's the recommendation was to go for 2 meetings a month, and if there was ever months where a second meeting wasn't needed, then we would just, cancel as needed.
Yep. And 6:30 start for open session with a 6 o'clock closed if we need it.
Correct.
Okay. Does that work for you?
I have board meetings on the second. No,
So we're going to try to have all closed session on the first day.
Okay, great. That would be great. No, the second Thursday, the fourth Thursday of every
Yeah.
month is my.
HR and special ed said they would make sure to have all closed session on that first one.
On the first
They
meeting.
can plan those. They can plan them throughout the year.
Yeah. I have an hour commute from Sacramento, so
Okay.
it is what it is.
Well, we'll accommodate.
I will try to do my best.
We will accommodate. If you have something, we'll accommodate. So.
We have very short board meetings, so.
Okay.
So, probably fine, yeah.
If there's no amendments, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries. 6.2, appointment of district committees. I have tried to take into account comments that people have made and in adjusting the committees. Not a lot of adjustments, but here's my proposal. My proposal would be for finance and facilities, have Andrew Tagg and Pete Constant. For the board policy review, I would recommend that we leave it as is with Pete Constant and Heidi Hall. For athletics liaison, leave it as is with Julie Hirota and Andrew Tagg. For the student board rep liaison, let's see, that is Julie Hirota and I believe Pete Constant. That's the old one. Yep. For city and community liaison, that is that in history has always been the president and vice president. So that would be me and Julie Hirota. For SILT, I would like to assign Heidi Hall and Julie Hirota.
Do we know when those meetings are?
It says monthly, but I don't think they're scheduled yet, are they?
When SILT meetings are?
It's, right now, the first one is scheduled on January 27th,
What day is
right
the week?
before our board meeting.
What day of the week is that?
That's gonna be your
Thursday?
second Thursday, so that might be tough for you.
Yeah, I probably not. good.
Well, that's okay, because this is one where we can have alternates. So,
That's true.
and then for the PCOE committee, school district organization voting representative, Andrew Tagg was assigned that through the end of this year. And so that will remain. School District Organization, I'll go ahead and take on, and Placer County School Board Association, I'll go ahead and take that on as well. Any comments, thoughts? Is that okay? If you want to see my hieroglyphics?
I'll move to approve if that's what we need. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll move to approve.
And, okay, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I will say, if something comes up and you want to be off something or you want to change, say the word. These are not set in stone and there's nothing magic about them, so okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 6.3, public hearing district contract proposal to CSEA, Chapter 459. I will go ahead and open the public hearing at 8:40 PM. Go ahead, Brad.
Yes, both items 6.3 and 6.4, in short, have to do with sunshining. So we want to sunshine our contract proposals that we plan to sit down and discuss with CSEA and as well as theirs. So 6.3 are our proposals. So staff, so the purpose of this is to allow public comment on those contract proposals to be negotiated between the district and CSEA, Chapter 459 for the 2021-22 school year, and once accepted, to refer this information to staff for contract negotiations. Staff prepared the attached contract proposals. Specifically, we plan on opening Article 4, hours and overtime. District proposes to revise language pertaining to job classification, seniority, and extra trip assignments as it pertains to the transportation department. Article 5, pay and allowances. The district proposes to revise language regarding pay intervals. And Article 6, health and welfare benefits. The district proposes to add clarifying language pertaining to health benefits in order to address resignations that happen over the summer. So at this time, it's appropriate for the board to ask for any public comments. And then any comments should be noted as part of the board minutes. And then after the comments are made, the board should close the public hearing.
Okay, we open the public hearing at 8:41. Any member of the public wish to address the board on this item? Going once, going twice. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and limit conversation to staff and the board. Is there a motion?
Accept the recommendation.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. 6.4.
So this is the same process. This time, these are the articles that CSEA is proposing to open. Article 5, pay and allowances. Proposing to negotiate a fair and equitable salary. They also want to look at increasing or making changes to the service recognition award. Article 6, health and welfare benefits, proposing to negotiate a fair and equitable increase to the district's monthly contribution to the health and welfare benefits. And Article 15, personal necessity leave, they propose to negotiate changes to the article as a whole, as well as requirements for usage of personal necessity leave. So once again, open to public comment, and then to close it afterwards.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing at 8:43. Members of the public, anyone wish to address the board on this item? Going once, going twice, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 8:43, and we will bring it back to the board and staff. Board members, is there a motion? Motion to approve by Hirota, a second by Hall. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries. Number 6, revised board bylaw 9310 regarding board policies. So if I see this correctly, where we have a policy about policies, is there a motion? Is there a second? Nothing says government like a policy about policy. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries. Okay, next regularly scheduled meeting is for, help me out here, the January 27? January 27. Pending agenda items, I'm not going to read them to you, but we do have some items coming up. Board and staff comments. Let's go around the room. Please, we'll start over there.
Just want to say, our goal is always was to keep our classrooms open, to keep schools open, and we are not immune to seeing an increase in the number of staff members who have been asked to either isolate or quarantine. But I must say, it's been a fairly smooth opening, but a lot of that has to do with the commitment from the teachers who are on campus to pick up extra assignments during their prep period, as well as the Ed Services Department. That every one of our directors, Jennifer, Layton, they've all been at the sites, and some of our PD specialists, they've been picking up classrooms and subbing. Mike Purvines has been in a science classroom for the last few days, doing a remarkable job, but it's all hands on deck, and we're just really appreciative so that we can make sure that we keep our schools open and our classrooms open.
Dr. Moore.
Appreciate the board interacting and sharing questions, and excited in the next couple of weeks we're launching several public or advisory committees. So we'll be reconvening our LCAP advisory, but we're starting up SILTs. We have another ALTED redesign committee meeting, so some really great opportunities to continue to gather input and stay connected to the public. And so appreciate everyone who's volunteered to serve on those committees.
John.
I just kind of want to start and echo with what Brad said. You know, to our office staff, our custodial, our clerical, our admin, our parents, and most importantly, our teachers for getting us off to a good start this week. I've been in 2 sessions with superintendents from around the state, and they're sinking. And we just saw today 2 NorCal districts shut down. We're seeing athletics and programs being shut down, and yet up here, it's just not happening. And so, like Brad said, it's a team effort. I mean, we have Ed Services, we have district office people covering classes, teachers picking up classes. I can't thank them enough for getting through this first week, getting through everything going on. Jen Layton over here for scheduling that. Rob Hasty working from his living room all week long, probably the hardest working man in show business right now, organizing things and about every 40-second change from the state, Cal OSHA, and you name the organization with the changes this week. He's done a tremendous job. And it just goes back. I mean, we've seen a lot of crazy stuff in the media the last 2-3 weeks, and you know, I mean, you just think the world's coming to an end, yet you go to our campuses and normalcy is happening. And that's our goal, is to keep things going as normal as possible. We still have games, we have dances, we have shows, we have a lot of things still going on, and we're still moving forward with everything. And that's just our business, is to keep kids going, keep kids normal. And again, that only happens with the team effort that's happening in our district right now. And I'm just really proud of that. Like I said, when I sit in meetings with people across the state, I get to really sit back and admire the good things we have and be very proud of that. So I just want to say thank you to everybody involved making this week successful.
I'll just echo the same thing as a mom for my son who got to start his second semester of his freshman year, and he's just so excited to go back, and everything has seemed really smooth. And then I talked to other board members in other counties, other parts of the state, and it's great, crazy boards, crazy schools. So it always makes me very grateful for all of our teachers and admin and cabinet and our board members. And so thanks to everyone who's pitching in. I'm excited to meet with Dr. Moore for coffee next week and get back onto the campuses. I feel like I haven't been on a school campus in a month. I haven't, probably. So schedule some more school tours now that everybody's back and finish out this semester.
Okay, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. I want to share some of the same comments. I'll say welcome back to everybody. I wish members from RSEA could have been here. I know they had back to school night, and it's totally appropriate that they are there. But man, I really wish they would have been here to hear the accolades from Brad and John and Heidi and myself, because they really do make this place tick and just run really well. And I love when there's a hole, people just naturally fill in. Now, I'll do the advertisement, of course. Anybody who wants to earn some good money, become a substitute teacher right now. There is no better time. And I will give you Brad's personal cell phone number for anyone who says, I will become a...
It was an emergency order that was just signed not a day before yesterday.
Yeah.
That now it's just bachelor's degree and then the background check. There's no CBEST, no kind of basic skills test or anything like that. And so we can get you signed up and in a classroom probably in a couple of days.
How much do we pay?
It's $150 a day, and if you were asked to cover all 4 periods, it's $200 a day.
It's $150 a day. If you're asked to cover all 4 periods, it's $200 per day. $1,000 a week. That's $4,000 a month. If you have a bachelor's degree and you pass a background check, $4,000 a month. Bam. It's all yours. Yeah. So I'm serious. If anybody wants to earn some money, substitute teaching right now is the time. Okay. Anyway, I'll step off of that soapbox, but I do want to welcome everybody back. I do want to congratulate those, and from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everyone, parents, teachers, staff, most importantly, our students, because they are hanging in there. They've been thrown so many curveballs, and you know it's like every curveball that gets thrown to them, it's like another day. Now, it's starting to catch up to them, but you know, with their mental well-being. But I just want to say I'm truly grateful, and I've said it before. I wouldn't trade the problems we have in this district for any other district. I'll take this district every day of the week. So with that, we will adjourn our meeting. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.